Friday, June 1st, and this is the Harai News.
There have been several wars in America's history. One of the more recent ones was the Iraq War. We entered the war in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, although many believe that President George W. Bush only entered the war because of the previous Gulf War, with leaders George H.W. Bush and Saddam Hussein. Some say George W. Bush was just seeking vengeance for his father. One of the many reasons that Americans believe that the reason for the Iraq War was more of a vengeance for George H.W. Bush is the lack of proof that Iraq was involved with the 9/11 attacks. Relations between Iraq and al-Qaeda existed, but rare. When America was in Iraq, they lost 4,487 troops until they officially left in December of 2011, with the final 13,000 troops leaving. It has also been thought that Iraq might have been a threat towards the United States, but even though there is capability. However, people such as Saddam Hussein have stated that they did not possess weapons of mass destruction. The war also deeply affected the Iraqi people, with over 100,000 civilians and 10,125 troops and police being killed. Reasons that have been suggested that why America may have entered Iraq have also stretched as far as oil. This is unlikely because the drilling for oil has decreased with the war. Whereas there's little information indicating connection between Iraq and al-Qaeda, there have been recurrences where they were told that there was no connection, such as in the Plame affair, where a CIA agent's identity was revealed and taken out of post because Valerie Plame's husband, Joseph C. Wilson, previous diplomat, was sent to Iraq by the United States CIA to find proof of supplies to build nuclear weapons. When Wilson reported there was none, Plame's employment was revealed and stopped. They wanted the report that there was nuclear equipment, when information saying there wasn't, it quickly stopped. On the 17th of March of 2003, President Bush made a speech urging the United States to enter Iraq. The only question to ask in the light of the many reasons of our occupation of Iraq was why were we there for 8 years? Was it a true reason or a source of revenge for a son that caused many people to lose their lives?
Iraq's post-Saddam Hussein government is beginning to reshape the country. However, significant improvements are necessary in order to restore the economy and national security. Iraq's government is currently a parliamentary democracy which is comprised of the judicial, executive, and legislative branches. The executive branch includes the president and up to 3 vice presidents, as well as the Council of Ministers, which includes 1 prime minister and 3 deputy prime ministers and 30 cabinet ministers. The judicial branch is composed of the Supreme Court, which is appointed by the prime minister, then verified by the Council of Representatives. The legislative branch consists of the 325 members of the Council of Representatives. Recently, Iraqi voters have become more skeptical surrounding the democratic voting process. Many Iraqis believe that there was fraud and cheating involved in the elections, which makes them feel insecure about the current system of government. Out of the current Iraqi population, as of July 2011, 97% of the Iraqi people are of Muslim religion, and out of that 97%, 60 to 65% are Shiites, and 32 to 37% are Sunnis. Nouri al-Maliki, a Shiite, is the current Prime Minister of Iraq, who has been involved in Iraq since he assumed office as the premier in May 2006. Jalal Talabani, a Kurd, currently age 78, is the current president of Iraq. He has been in office as president since 2005. This relatively new government needs to establish its credibility. It has big shoes to fill because of the rampant unemployment that the country is facing. Immense economic reform is needed in order to employ the approximately 450,000 younger Iraqis entering the workforce each year. According to a 2009 labor force analysis, 18% of Iraqi people are unemployed. Iraq is still in need of support and attention from the U.S., even after the troops come home. However, the American benefit of involvement in Iraq is minimal. The war turned out to be beneficial for Iraqi businesses, however, much less profitable for American businesses. The old commercial fairgrounds were destroyed by the post-Saddam Hussein government, and the government invited nations from all over the world to start businesses in Iraq under a new economy. The U.S. has spent a total of $1.2 trillion on the war in Iraq. To put this into perspective, $200 billion is spent each year in Iraq, whereas only $35 billion could fund universal preschool for 3- and 4-year-olds. In addition, universal health care for people in the U.S. who cannot afford it could be funded for $100 billion, which is only half of the annual cost of involvement in Iraq. So the question is involvement in Iraq the reason that we don't have beneficial programs such as healthcare and universal preschool? As stated in a 2009 article by the New York Times, Iraq's imports nearly doubled in 2008 to $43.5 billion from $25.67 billion in 2007. However, imports from American companies stayed flat at $2 billion over that period. As you can see, in the past few years, oil production has increased to around 1.9 million barrels per day. Clearly, the Iraqis do have money that they are making, so the question is whether they should be responsible for using their own money to rebuild, or if it is right to have U.S. intervention. Now, to discuss security, which is an issue of great concern in Iraq, which has also immensely affected the American economy as well.
The status of Iraq's security has improved from where it was just a few years ago. In 2003, the United States invaded Iraq after Saddam Hussein refused the ultimatum given by the United Nations. He was told that if he did not allow UN inspectors to view his country's weapons program, then the U.S. would invade. After 8 years, the U.S. officially pulled out all troops in Iraq, and the invasion was over. The U.S. presence was never gone, though. The United States still had an embassy in the middle of Baghdad known as the Green Zone. The Green Zone is like a fortress in the middle of a city. The base is huge, with a number of troops, and the Green Zone covers a large portion of the city. 10 square kilometers of Baghdad is run by international rulers. It is also known as the International Zone because it's home to the international forces that remain in Iraq. The United States also has a large number of military advisors that are watching over the new Iraqi government and military. The United States has also hired private contracting companies to guard the American and foreign dignitaries. They're also good for the security of job sites and many other situations that are present in Iraq, such as political buildings and military sites. They're widespread and a good alternative for conventional forces. Although the United States are no longer in Iraq, the security continues to improve. The number of attacks on civilians has dropped, and the enemy forces have, for the most part, been wiped out. Bomb-making factories and safe houses have been shut down, and the enemy forces dispelled. The security is getting better each day, with Iraq's government becoming more capable and powerful.